Peace, family. A few days ago, Donald Trump gave his State of the Union address. And in my opinion, it was a calamity. It was a clown show from beginning to end. This man spent almost 2 hours talking about the same old rhetoric that we have already heard before. Very little was new. How he can and how he is able to bring up these people that who's he claimed that migrants have unalived their children, and you pick the parents whose child allegedly has been unalived by migrants in the most brutal fashion possible. And Donald Trump, he spared no sympathy, no compassion for these parents. He described in the blood curdling means in which these alleged victims, which I don't know whether they exist or not, but he described it in the most brutal, no concern for the parents whatsoever. And he's doing this to score political points. This is why I cannot believe that these incidents truly happened. But there's no way if this will happen to my child, would I endorse or allow somebody to do it. I will have to have every I dotted, every T crossed, because I want to know exactly how you describe this scene, because I don't want to relive this pain all over again. And for him to be such a champion against migrant crime, nobody ever talks about the fact that Donald Trump ended legislation in the Joe Biden administration that would have addressed the migrants coming to this country. And why did he do that? Because he wanted a problem to run on. And he know people victimize migrants. So he stopped this legislation, which allowed these migrants to continue to come into the country. And now all of a sudden, now you want to execute the most brutal means of extracting them. Nobody talks about that. But my thought process is this. This country is on the verge of 250 years of existence. When you look at the technological advances that has happened since the conception to now, we have gone from the horse and buggy era to smartphones, smart cars, smart roads, smart bridges, smart grids. Why can't we elect smart presidents? Donald Trump is without a doubt one of the most ignorant people on the planet. When you look at the process of going from conception to almost 250 years in existence, this country is. All the opportunities this country has had to get better, to be more efficient in how it does things. Use the technological advances around it to make it better, more efficient, so the prosperity spreads more and more to its citizens. You wait till you almost 250 years old and you elect a felon as president. You want a felon to get right what all the other presidents before got wrong. Because Donald Trump is the smartest one of them all. This man has no compassion for the people. He has no respect for women. He's using props instead of policy, having the U.S. men's hockey team in the State of the Union address as if you had anything to do with their performance. Speaks to how little you've done your job. And it also speaks directly to your disrespect of women. Because the U.S. women's hockey team, they also won gold. They also beat Canada. And they won it first. But you don't mention that. And when Donald Trump talking about how gas prices was $6 up under Joe Biden's administration, and now it's down to $1.85. You see, these prices and places that Donald Trump is doing this cost comparison only exist in his mind. When you go out into the real world, you see the actual prices of gas, eggs, meat, and everything. They don't exist. Donald Trump, you supposed to be the art of the deal, the best negotiator. You're supposed to be that guy. How do you exude that at the same time you calling Democrats who you know you're going to probably more than likely need their help to pass your legislation, and you're calling these people idiots, you're calling them crazy during the State of the Union address? And don't let me forget, when you bring up the U.S. hockey team, I almost forgot. It was reported that you couldn't even go to Italy to view this victory yourself. Why? Because Italy refused to let Donald Trump in their country because of his criminal record. You know, I have not verified that, but I can believe it. I can actually believe it. You know, like I say, when you look at the technological advances that this country has made over the years, how you're able to build things more quicker, more efficient, more safer than before, you can do a comparison. You can do an analysis. You can do a risk assessment. What will happen if we build it this high? What will happen if we build it this low? What will happen if we build it this narrow? What will happen if the walls are this thick as opposed to this thin? You can do all these comparisons before you actually build the structure. Why didn't nobody do this? Do this statistical analysis when you want to elect a felon as president of the United States, somebody who's already filed bankruptcy half a dozen times, bankrupt half a dozen businesses, 2 casinos, convicted of sexual assault. According to Ice-T, more Donald Trump's friends are in jail than his friends, and he was a drug dealer. Nobody did a comparison analysis to say, if you elect this person without no probationary period and give him immunity for the last 4 years of his administration, what would be the risk assessment to the people? Nobody thought about that. You know, like I say, when you look at the process of electing the president today, it should be more about science than it is policy. This should be an art form now. We should be electing the most competent, conscientious, compassionate people to run the country. You have done the exact opposite. Even in the court setting, when the jury come back with a verdict that the judge himself finds that the jury had no reason whatsoever to come back with this verdict, the judge has the power to overturn the verdict of the jury. Why? To safeguard the people of the country, or the people of the state. The judge has the power to overturn their verdict. You telling me that when 77 million people vote to put a president with his criminal record in the position of president of the United States, and the people actually vote, there's no process that somebody can step in and say, we cannot, for the sake of the people, allow a person with this character to be president of the United States? It's too much of a risk to the people. And do this thing over. If you can do that for 12 in the jury, then you definitely should be able to do it for 77 million in the country. But, you know, like I said, I'm going to end this video here. None of this stuff makes sense. But as always, these are my thoughts, my opinions. I invite you to leave yours in the comments. And I'll see you in my next video. Ashe.